friend. You're listening to The Sustainable Body Worker, the podcast for massage therapists who want to grow thriving, purpose-led businesses without the burnout. Here we talk about nervous system aligned business strategy, pricing that makes sense, client work that doesn't deplete you, and how to build a career that actually supports your life. I'm your host, Gretchen Pop, massage therapist, mentor, educator, and recovering overachiever. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone. Today, I'm so excited to introduce you to Michelle Hansen. Michelle is the founder of Embodied Traditions Holistic Abdominal Therapy. What I love most about Michelle is her approach to teaching. She leads with openness and curiosity, encouraging practitioners to learn from many sources rather than locking themselves into one right way. Now, abdominal massage is a modality that many of us don't get nearly enough exposure to in our trainings, and Michelle is passionate about showing how this work can be truly life-changing for clients and for practitioners. In our conversation today, we dive into what it looks like to support students in the process of learning a skill which is taught in various ways by various educators, how abdominal massage can transform both bodies and lives, and the shift we would love to see in the continuing education world for massage therapists. Michelle brings so much wisdom and heart to this conversation, and I think you're going to walk away both inspired and challenged to think differently about your work. And if you're interested in learning more about her offerings, you'll find links to her practitioner training in the show notes. Let's jump in. Alrighty, let's get started. Michelle, I am so excited that you're here. Let's just start by letting you introduce yourself and let the audience get to know who you are and what your background is and all of that good stuff before we get into it.
Great. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for bringing me on today. I really, really appreciate this. And I appreciate you and everything that you're doing. So I started my career, my healthcare career as a nurse, and it was really stressful. And I don't do well under stress. I wanted a job where I could have flexibility so I could raise my son. And I became a massage therapist. And it is the best thing I have ever done. I love my job as a massage therapist. And then about 5 years after becoming a massage therapist, I learned about abdominal therapy. And so I took my first training and I have not looked back since. I have been so in love with it. And every class I take just brings more depth into the work I do. And just the lives that are changed because of it has been really amazing right from the get-go.
Yeah. What first introduced you to the abdominal massage?
I was working with a holistic practitioner and she asked me to take the training. And I'm always up for an adventure. So I was like, sure. And there was a training in the US 2 weeks later, and they had a spot left open. And so I flew out to New Hampshire to take the training, and that was it. That's where it started.
Do you feel like there was anything from your nursing experience that kind of naturally lended a passion or like an inspiration for you to be really excited about the abdominal work?
That's a really good question. I don't know if my job as a nurse created more excitement, but I think it's helped as far as the healthcare part goes. And no.
It's funny just because I think I like naturally think like, oh, someone with this medical background would naturally, okay, so just for context, I always felt like in school, the more abdominal visceral work was like really heady and really medical oriented. And I kind of shied away from it. Even when we were just doing like the Hata assessment in shiatsu, I was like, oh, or internal organs, I don't know what I'm doing there. So I think I have this natural assumption that someone with a more medical background would naturally be more well eased into the abdominal massage world.
That may be true. And I just haven't noticed. But yeah, that's such a great question. I have never even considered that before. I'll say that I probably push the limits on what I originally learned were contraindications are not contraindications to me.
Hmm.
And so I've changed a lot of that from my training. because I don't have the fear that a lot of people have with certain diseases or other issues. Like people call me with some pretty strange issues that are going on for them. And I'll do research on it, but usually my answer to them saying, "Can you help me?" is, "I don't know, let's see."
Yeah.
And so there's not a lot of fear in the work I do. There are some contraindications, but not like there were in my original training.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like with anything, right? Yeah.
Right. And I'll say that typically if you tell me not to do something, I'll kind of tiptoe into it and do it anyway. Maybe cautiously at first.
It makes me think of what I've seen going around in regard to like people kind of standing up to authority. Like, I will more than happily not do something or do something a specific way if you explain to me why. And I've always
Uh-huh.
been curious about that too, especially becoming an educator myself. I didn't want to just regurgitate these contraindications for the sake of like, well, I was taught it that way. I want to understand why, and I want to teach it from a lens of understanding why, because then on a case to case basis, then we can actually make some decisions. And, maybe a contraindication is actually more of a consideration. And when we are more well informed about the physiology and the pathophysiology, we can make more informed decisions for our clients.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think about all the people I would not have been able to help had I paid attention to that.
Yeah.
And all the lives that I would not, the work I do. I don't want to claim that I did anything. I think it's the work and the client that
Yeah.
really has the transformation or provides the transformation. But um, they just that opportunity wouldn't have been there if I would have said no, sorry, that's contraindicated.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, such a juicy discussion. I'm curious, just looking at abdominal therapy as a like from a bird's eye view, can you articulate why this work is so important to you personally?
Well, personally, when I took my first class, I had horrendous periods. Like
Mm,
on the floor, crying, couldn't leave the house for a couple days. It was awful. And when I started doing this work, I had no more pain.
wow.
And I went years with having no pain with my periods. I went from hating my period to loving my period because it felt like a cleanse.
Okay, that's a huge claim. So I want to know more about that. How does something like that happen? Can you articulate, like, from your understanding of what's happening with the abdominal work, what happened for you? What was able to allow that shift to happen?
From what I understand, a tipped uterus is not normal.
Mm,
A tipped uterus can cause so many problems. Do you want me to go get my uterus and show you?
please.
Okay, hold on a second. I have to go get my toy basket. Okay.
And what I'll do, since this is audio too, we are recording the video. And what I'll do is I will put this segment of the video on YouTube because we've had some issues with posting the video on our actual podcast platform. So I'll just actually show this visual on YouTube and I'll share a link in the show notes so that everyone can see you walking through this demonstration with the uterus. And I see that it's crochet.
It's a
That's
crochet
amazing.
uterus. Yeah, I did not make this. I purchased this, but I really want to learn how to crochet so I can make these.
Yes.
So the uterus should sit um, in the pelvis. Let me get my pelvis here. Okay, so here's a pelvis. This is about the size of the uterus.
Okay.
It's about 4 ounces, but it should sit in the pelvis. Can you see this?
Mm-hmm.
Like this, just right over the bladder. So it should sit like this.
Yeah.
So if it's backwards, which is retroverted, if it's retroflexed, if it's off to the side, if it's
Mm.
far forward, it can cause all kinds of problems. Okay. If there's stagnation in the belly, it can cause a lot of pain. So the uterus is a very vascular organ. So it's
Mm.
full of blood and lymph. But if it's stagnant, you don't have that good blood flow running through. You don't have that good, clean, fresh blood coming in and the old blood going out. And it can cause a lot of pain and
Yeah.
problems. Most of the time, it's really easy to fix a painful period, like maybe 1, 2, or 3 sessions. But in, our medicine, well, for somehow it has been normalized.
Yeah.
This pain has been normalized, and pain is never normal. It always tells you something is wrong,
Agreed.
but nobody's looking at what's wrong, right? I mean, not nobody, but we're learning. More and more people are learning that a tipped uterus or painful menstruation is not normal. Sometimes with fertility, here's my uterus with the vaginal canal.
I love it.
Sometimes with fertility, I think that the opening, the cervix, is too far down. If the uterus is sitting too far down, the sperm can't get up. And so,
Interesting.
right. And so, literally working on the ligaments that hold the uterus in place can bring the uterus into the correct position.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So this isn't just, I think abdominal therapy, I think of digestion, I think of liver flow, I mean, yes, of course, there's the uterine and fertility implications, but it's structural as well.
Oh, completely, completely. And right. And for digestion, sometimes this work is like one session and people with lifelong digestive issues are fine. Sometimes it doesn't touch it. So there's no guarantee that the work will help. If somebody comes into me with painful menstruation because they have endometriosis, it's
Yeah.
really hit or miss. I will say that 99% of the time their period is not as painful, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to fix it. There's so many other things they need to be doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Fascinating. I mean, you say life changing is absolutely life changing work. And you and I, when we had spoken previously, we talked about how you had a journey of taking one training after another and kind of soaking up as much as you possibly could. And now you're an educator yourself. I'm curious through your experience training and learning from all of these different sources, what did you notice about how different teachers or schools approached this work?
Every training I have taken has been completely different, different rules, different beliefs. So the first training that I ever took, we were asked not to ever take any other training and
Mm-hmm.
just keep it pure at that. And so for years, that's all I did. And but curiosity got the best of me. And I took another training and I was just again blown away. And it filled in so many holes that my original training was missing. And then I took visceral manipulation and was also again blown away at what I had learned more about. Well, I mean, the whole thing is amazing. I want all of my students to take visceral manipulation too, but more about just organ placement and learning exactly where the organs are and how they move and how they move together and separately.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, every training I've taken has really been a game changer for the work I do.
Yeah, totally. Oh, in such the same camp about learning from multiple sources. I know that both of us have experienced this. I've mentioned to you previously, and I've shared this in different spaces through those of you who have been listening to me and hearing me over the years, sharing my experience in the cupping world. And I don't think that this is unique to the body work world. I experienced this so much in my training as an herbalist as well, that there's, for lack of a better word, a lot of dogma when it comes to continuing ed or specific modality trainings. And so, for example, my first experience with learning cupping, admittedly, I was self-taught for a while before going and learning with a physical therapist for a bit. And she was like, yeah, just learn with me for a couple hours. You'll be totally set. I bought some random machine off of Amazon and I was practicing for like 2 years until
Uh-huh.
I took my first training. And that first training, I was like, whoa, okay, I could have been making a lot of mistakes. And I'm so
Right.
glad I'm
Yes.
getting trained now. And
Yes.
after taking my trainings with these people for I took the introductory class as well as their advanced class. And these people by no means were exclusive, but I took a training from a different organization where that organization then showed pictures of what the previous organization I trained with. They started the class with saying, we don't do this type of cupping. So I had
Right.
kind of another experience of like, oh, snap, I've been doing this now for this many years and it could be dangerous. And it made me feel really shameful. Like I had been doing something wrong or it could have hurt someone when I was actually adequately trained by
Right.
an organization and even had their advanced training. And I quickly came to realize that it was a perhaps a marketing ploy to keep people in their continued studies to keep them within their school. And this, I've seen this in multiple other cupping trainings where they say, don't go learn from that person. I have been someone who has been spoken poorly of by other trainers who have never met me in person or taken any of my trainings simply because we're teaching a similar modality and there's competition. So I'm curious to what extent you've noticed that in the abdominal world.
Oh, well, where I live, the other abdominal therapists, I will say, have been horrible about that, if that's what you're asking. I mean, mean. And
Mm,
to me, I'm about empowering people.
absolutely.
I am about there's enough people on the planet for all of us to serve. My schedule's way too busy.
Yeah.
I don't want to be as busy. In fact, right before we hopped on this call, I have two people that I'm trying to send to my students, and both of them are saying, no, I want to wait to see you. And I'm like, no, no, I can't. I can't put one more person on the waiting list.
Yeah.
So there's enough for everyone. There's enough people to go around for everyone. We can't serve everyone. I want my students, I want people to prefer to see my students rather than me.
Yeah.
I want my students to be the best. I encourage my students to take more training because it can't be just me. And I don't want other clients to suffer, other possible clients. I don't want any person to suffer.
Yeah. Yeah. I love what you say about like you want them to go learn because I've always felt the same way. I've never enjoyed as soon as I became an educator and I put myself on, the Facebook and have a Facebook group for cupping therapists, I've received so many questions, even just from the general public of asking me like, oh, should I do this? Should I do that? And so many of these questions are out of my scope, like they're lymphatic questions, which I'm not a lymphatic specialist at all. There's surgical questions, which to some extent I can answer, but I'm by no means like an orthopedic specialist and all of that. And so it's really interesting because this pedestal where people are asking these questions, I would prefer to refer out to either the training that is going to be more specialized to them, like I specialize in chronic pain. Perhaps there's another specialty training that will actually do a different, level or a different focus that will benefit your clients better. But please go learn from other people. I had this one experience, and I think it was like 18 when I started training with this one person in herbal medicine. It was my first experience learning herbal medicine. This should have been my red flag, where signing up for her program, all of the books that we were told to purchase for the curriculum were written by her and only her. And this is herbal medicine. There are hundreds of amazing practitioners, contemporary and historical, that could create an amazing curriculum. And so whenever there's, an instructor or an educator who is like, please only learn from me, only read what I have, that's a big red flag. Whereas I love that you and I, when we were speaking before, we resonated on like, yeah, go learn from someone else. Please go get as much experience as you possibly can, because I only have one way and I only have one frame of mind to share with you. And that's such a box.
Well, and I use the techniques that I feel like work best in my practice, but other people teach other techniques that I don't use.
Yeah.
And I can't teach all of them. And then, of course, techniques morph over time. As over the years of doing this work, the techniques have morphed into something completely different than what I've learned. And so it really becomes something different than what I even learned. So if one of my students, or if my students take the same training that I took years ago, they're going to get something totally different out of it than I did.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that's part of the beauty of this work. I have so many students that are interested in creating an online course and they're inspired and they have their own technique, but they learned it from somewhere, even though it's like still their own spin on it. Some of them are terrified to share what they've learned as an educator because they have learned it originally from somewhere else. And I'm like, look at the lineage of massage therapy. We've been learning these same techniques from person to person to person for thousands of years. And it's just like music, at this point, like you were inspired and there might be the same three notes in that song to this song, but you're putting your own spin on it. And that's what makes it really, really beautiful.
Absolutely. And then my students put their own spin on it, and we all get together for practice sessions. And I'm like, what are you doing? And then that becomes a technique I teach.
Yeah, I love that. I've had that experience too in my advanced graduates retreats where people who've trained with the online course and then we all come together for the advanced work to get that in-person experience. And I'm looking at them like, for example, one team comes to mind. The two women from Hawaii came to the very first graduates retreat and they're both trained in Lomi Lomi, like real Lomi Lomi, and they're combining the cupping with Lomi Lomi. And I'm like, oh, you just created a new modality. Like I know
Oh,
you learned Lomi Lomi over there and you learned NCT over here from me, but you just created something magical. Let's gather everyone around and learn this.
that awesome. I love it when that happens. I love
Yeah.
it when the work we do and the work we teach morphs because of our students.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's really
Yeah.
magical.
And we get to learn so much from them too. It's a privilege.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We're all in this together.
Yeah. In your personal experience, how has taking classes from multiple instructors shaped the way that you practice and teach today?
Um, well, I would say that I'm really open-minded, like we were just talking about it not being one way,
Yeah.
because there isn't one way. And what I tell my students, okay, so I have this experience of taking my first training and then years later becoming a teacher. And one of the women I was teaching with, I was doing a technique and she goes, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm doing the technique." And she goes, "That's not the technique." And I had been doing it for years this way. And I said, "Well, lucky for me, I didn't kill anyone doing it wrong, but I liked how I did it." And so I tell my students that are afraid they're going to do something wrong. And I'm like, and I always tell that story
Yeah.
because you're not going to hurt anyone.
It's interesting. I've experienced that as well when either being a TA or witnessing a TA. I've seen that in practice. I've seen that exact scenario play out and the rush of embarrassment that that person feels
Oh,
can be like so because yeah, it can make you feel like, oh, I wasn't doing it right. I could have hurt someone. Are you saying I'm like a terrible person and I shouldn't be a
right.
teacher? But really it's like, well, is there creative license here, or was it possibly beneficial? Now, as you said previously, and as we discussed previously, like there are direct contraindications and there are things that are very
Absolutely.
important to pay attention to. But like, for example, a slight spin on a technique that works better for your body mechanics or works better for the body that you were working with on the table isn't going to kill anyone. It might look slightly different and it might be done slightly different. And yeah, maybe it is harder on your own wrists, but it might feel better for your body.
Right.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there just is not just one way.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm teaching tools for a toolbox.
Yeah. So important. Do you happen to have any stories from your own experience where combining teachings from different sources gave you your own personal breakthrough or made your work more effective?
Well, I think just each time I've taken training and added techniques and changed what I do adds so much more to the work I do. And
Yeah.
just with every training, I find like I'll say what are the best of the best techniques that just are super effective for people to shift and change and
Yeah.
heal.
Yeah, totally. It makes me think whenever I take an in-person training, there's always so much jam-packed into a 24-hour training. Is
Mhm.
usually that 3-day, 24-hour training. And we're going to pick up the nuggets that work best with our body, and our brain is going to be naturally attuned to what tools naturally fit into our own repertoire, our current repertoire. And I think that can, like, just knowing that and being like, okay, I'm going to take what I'm going to take, can just kind of take the pressure off. Because I know personally for me, for a long time, I was like, I got to remember everything. I got to take all the notes. Maybe I see a lot of people like taking video in class. Unfortunately, without people's consent, without the body on the table's consent, which I think is a big problem,
Uh-huh.
because it comes from a place of feeling like they need to remember every single thing rather
Right?
than being embodied in the training and allowing their hands to pick up what's going to be most useful for them. It will stick.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll tell a story about the first person I worked on after I got done with my very first training. She was a massage client and she had never talked about this before, but I had just gotten back from the training the day before. And I was super excited about it, but I didn't know how I was going to integrate it into my sessions. And she just happened to mention, she goes, yeah, we've been trying to conceive for a year now, so I have to start IVF because we're just not getting pregnant. And I go, oh, let me try this new technique I learned on you. And I took out my list of techniques and my sheet protector and I put it on her legs. And I did the first thing, I did the second thing, and I went through the list, and then I did the posterior. She got pregnant.
That's amazing.
And that was it. That I was all in. I
Does
was
she even have to keep doing the IVF treatments? Because I know that's a
she never
long
even
protocol.
she never started the IVF.
That's amazing.
Yeah, she never even started because I think it was like 2 weeks later she found out she was pregnant.
Oh my gosh.
And she was
You
probably
saved her so much money.
I I have so many stories like that. It is crazy.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so cool. Hey, friend, quick pause in the episode because I have to share something that's made a huge impact on both my practice and the work I teach inside my courses. Now, if you've been following me for a while, you probably remember the teal cups I started out with. Those were iconic in my early days of teaching cupping therapy. But here's the thing I learned the hard way: not all silicone cups are created equal. I started noticing huge inconsistencies between sets: cups that discolored fast, sharp edges that irritated my client's skin, and it just wasn't cutting it for the level of work I was doing. And in 2020, I found Global Cupping, and I've never looked back. Their cups are hands down the clearest, smoothest, and most consistent silicone cups I've ever used, and I've tried a ton. The difference in quality is immediately noticeable. These cups stay clear even after repeated disinfection, and they're built to stand up to high-level sanitation protocols, something I insist on teaching in my neuromuscular cupping therapy trainings. What I also love is the customizability. I can mix and match sizes in a set, no more stockpiling a bunch of cups I never use, and their silicone facial cups are my absolute go-to now for jaw work. No more rubber bulbs on the glass cups to worry about disintegrating, just easy to clean, durable tools that are comfortable for both the client and the therapist. In my own approach, I combine cupping with movement, massage, and retraining at the neuromuscular junction. And that means I need cups that can move with the body, grip well, and feel safe and smooth on sensitive tissue. These silicone cups, especially the 55 hardness to start with, are perfect for that. And for chronic pain clients, especially those with nervous system dysregulation, the ability to glide, pause, and work in dynamic ways is key to breaking pain cycles. Plus, their customer service, impeccable. I'm a stickler for this. I've had questions, students have had questions, and they're always quick, professional, and just genuinely kind. It makes a really big difference. So whether you're brand new to cupping or you're refining your technique, this is the gear I recommend. It's an investment in your practice that pays off in results, ease of use, and your client's comfort. Use code NEURO at checkout for 20% off your first order at globalcupping.com. All right, let's get back to the episode. tell us a little bit more about the abdominal massage that the class that you've developed. How does your approach honor what you've learned previously while also giving your students the space to make it their own, like you spoke about before?
Well, talking about honoring, the first thing we do is talk about the lineages of what I teach. So that's really important to give credit where credit is due. It's
Yeah.
very important to honor where the work comes from. And then just teaching the step-by-step process of what I teach, going over all of the techniques, and then really encouraging my students to make it their own. There's a lot of conversation in class, a lot of communication. So I teach the techniques. So I'll teach the full anterior, and then the students will work on each other. And while they're working on each other, there's a ton of communication. And I typically only have 6 students per class. Right now, I like to keep it small until I can hopefully at some point have assistants that I really trust to teach with me, that are real. I shouldn't say trust, that are really talented. There's just a lot of communication.
Yeah. Well, that's important. And the small group really does give that ability to collaborate rather than feeling like you kind of get lost. I've been in those classes of 30, 40 students and, and even with multiple TAs available, it can feel very overwhelming, especially for a technique. So for example, I mean, a technique that builds upon techniques that we learned in school, it can be a little bit easier to kind of flow through and chit chat with, but abdominal massage is not something that's typically taught in massage school. It's not an area that we're taught. So I can see how this small class size can really, really make it so that people feel confident to ask questions and receive the support when they're struggling.
Right. And then just building your community is so important. Also just feeling honored for the questions. Like there are no stupid questions.
Yeah.
There are just really curious questions. And honoring my students for what they're bringing in, and for where they're at with their learning or their understanding. And I'll say that we have a lot of fun in class. We have a ton of fun. There's a lot of just camaraderie and laughter. And I every time I teach a class, I'm like, now, no, you guys are my favorite class every single time.
Well, I feel like that's so important, especially for such a vulnerable area being worked as well, and probably a natural response to receiving abdominal work.
Right. Yes. I'll say it's kind of sad that it's not taught in massage schools, but and that it's considered a kind of an area that you don't touch. And I've had a lot of people that want to take my training, but they're afraid of other people's emotions.
Mm.
And man, we're all on a journey, and your clients are on their own journey, and stuff comes up, and it can be really tough stuff that comes up. And it's like, we're just there holding space for them for whatever shows up. I don't get into their trauma. I mean, I'm there for them 100%, but it's not mine to take home. And we talk
Mm.
about this a lot in class. And we talk about the stuff that might come up, the tears, the laughter, the just whatever emotion it is, because we do tend to store a lot of emotion in our core. And to be able to just be there to hold space for people without getting involved in it is really important.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too, I always think about, I explain to clients why they tend to be ticklish in certain areas, and I
Mhm.
see it as a place that the body is vulnerable. So we have that natural tickle response to tighten the muscle and protect the area, and it makes me think about when it does come to that transference of energy and emotion that we might be picking up from our clients, would you say that there's kind of a higher likelihood because of the lack of boundary that there is in the abdominal cavity? You know, in other areas, there's the bone. For example, like if you're working over the rib cage, there's the ribs that protect the lung and the heart, the emotions from those organs. But in the abdominal cavity, there's no bone protecting that. So is there, and this is just like a wild out of the ether kind of a question, but is there a tendency for the emotions to flow or the transference to be even more strong because of the abdominal work?
Probably. So I'm going to tell a story. I'm going to tell a
Yeah.
story that's really powerful. So, I mean, I don't see men anymore, but when I used to, I had this guy that was coming in to see me, and he was very, very strange. A little bit uh kind of he couldn't look me in the eyes. And he was a little bit socially, maybe had social anxiety. And he kept coming in and he kept saying, I don't know why I want to keep coming in. And I kept saying, well, because there's something there that is drawing you here. And you'll know when the time is right. Anyway, so he just kept coming in, and every time he'd come in, he'd have more and more tears, but no emotion.
Interesting.
And he said, every time I see you, the tears flow, but there's no emotion. And I said, oh, I think it'll catch up. And I mean, this was years and years ago, years and years when I first started doing abdominal therapy. And he one time he came in and I'm working on his abdomen, and he just started sobbing. And I didn't know what to do
Mhm.
because I wasn't trained in what to do. But I just held his arm. I just put my hand on his arm and I said, I'm right here. You're totally safe. If you want to talk about it, I'm here. And he talked about some really deep personal repressed memories from his childhood.
Wow.
And I just said, you're perfectly safe right here. I said, let me know when you want me to continue. So then he wanted me to continue with the abdominal work. And then I did the posterior. And when we were done, he, got off the table and I said, I think this is a good time to start therapy.
Yeah.
So he did. And then he came back 6 months later, a totally different person,
Wow.
completely a changed person.
That's amazing. And also like good job on like referring out appropriately as
Right.
well.
Right. And he was a client on and off for years. And it just really changed his life. And here I am not knowing how to handle somebody else's emotions. And I'm just
Yeah.
going, oh no, what do I do? So
Yeah.
so I just kind of stepped back and just held space. And so now I teach that in my training.
Yeah. Oh, that's so important because I think that, you know, there's such a big limit to our scope around that. We're not meant to encourage therapeutic talk. We're not supposed to help them process those unfiltered emotions and anything like that. But it comes up.
Mhm.
It like body work doesn't have to be abdominal work. You could even just simply give a scalp massage and cause that type of response because their mom used to pet their head in that way and they have a whole story with that or whatever it is. And we get caught off guard when that happens. And I think it's beautiful that you weave that into your education because it does come up.
Yeah, it does come up. Absolutely. And then some people get the giggles because that's emotion too.
Yeah. Yeah,
And it's
absolutely.
just, and that of course is fun when somebody gets the giggles.
Yeah. I love that. So tell me, what is your bigger vision for abdominal massage education? Because ever since I started speaking with you, I've been able to sense your passion for this work. And it's, you know, I can tell that it's more than just you want to teach your own abdominal massage class. There's something bigger here. So I'm curious, what do you hope shifts in the culture around how we learn and share this work?
Well, first of all, I want there to be an abdominal therapist on every corner so that people don't say, I wish I would have known about this years ago.
Yeah.
I just want this to be everywhere. I want it to be so accessible. And right now it's not. So I am working on it. Um, my vision is really empowering people just to be successful and to help others heal. I mean, I really I want other therapists to have the success that I've had.
Yeah, I love that. And it seems like there's so many different ways that you can go about this work as well.
Oh, absolutely. You can add so many other modalities in with it. It's not a one thing. It doesn't have to be one thing.
Yeah.
There's so much more. I mean, like I
Yeah.
was talking to one of the other women in Badass Body Workers. She does lymphatic work. I know very little about lymphatic work. And, she was asking how if it would be good to bring that in. And I'm like, absolutely.
Yeah. There's a ton I've seen on Instagram and any social media where there's video, the lymphatic contouring is the abdominal contouring is huge right now.
Oh, I
So, I
haven't
mean,
heard of that.
yeah, it's just using lymphatic work in the abdominal area to make people look more toned and contoured and
I
flushing that.
I have a client right now that came in to see me for some pretty extreme abdominal pain. Her pain is gone, but every time she sees me, she's losing inches in her abdomen.
Yeah,
And so she's coming every other week now because it's made such a difference for her.
that's amazing. Yeah, I'm
And
sure a lot of that's lymph.
absolutely. And I don't even do a lymphatic work.
Yeah,
So, I mean, imagine a therapist that does both and how powerful that would be for my
absolutely.
client. That would be really cool.
Yeah. I mean, organ health is I mean, if you were to look at the traditional Chinese medicine way of looking at the body, organ health is, and this is coming from someone who does not speak traditional Chinese medicine. So this is my tiny nugget that I
Yes,
know. But the organ health is like the root of where everything is. The entire system is the organ's health and being able to really connect with those organs in that way and making sure that they are I think of it kind of like they're like little puzzle pieces together and they're relating and the viscera is, not tight and constricted in certain ways and the lymph is able to flow and the blood is able to flow in such a good way. That's like the root of our health. Everything rides on that.
absolutely. Absolutely. And if something's bound up in your belly, it can be bound up in your neck or your head or your legs or your feet. Um, and sometimes I'll do a technique on the belly or the whole thing, and other areas of the body will release. It's all connected. We're so connected, and so missing the core of the body is kind of a big deal as far as, I mean, in my world.
Yeah. And actually, like, it's making me want to take your class or honestly any visceral class because it's kind of connecting a lot of dots for me now. I started my education with shiatsu. That was our first quarter. And the Hata assessment is what we did to determine where we are going to be, which meridians we're going to work on. And I remember I was 18 when I started this and I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing here. Like what the upper hata is hard and soft. I have no idea. And plus I'm touching people's stomachs. I was one of the weirdos that started massage school and then realized like, oh shit, I've got to touch people. I have to touch naked bodies. I don't know why that didn't connect for me. Touch was not something I grew up with. So
Uh-huh.
people find it fascinating that I give such quality of touch. And I'm like, it's probably because I was starved for it growing up,
Yeah,
to be
yeah,
completely
yeah.
honest. But I remember like being so like how the importance of the Hata assessment to the entire system. And then the rest of my education being Western, we went into Swedish and then a neuromuscular type of work, followed by looking at, energetics and how to integrate it all together. We never went back to the abdomen. We did have a teacher at one point who was a sub who was a visceral manipulation specialist. And I remember her doing some really cool voodoo stuff on me and me being like, well, what's happening here? This is really painful. What's wrong with me? But it is now kind of clicking when talking with you about like, you mentioned that, something going on in the abdomen, just like could be causing issues in the ankle or in the neck. And I see that as like, oh yeah, I mean, I say that all the time. This broken, I just told a client last week actually that, he's got this shoulder pain that's terrible. And he told me that years ago he jumped off of a really high building and smashed his ankle and it was on the same side. And I'm like, well, your ankle probably has a lot to do with why your shoulder is not healing in this way. And so that makes so much sense that the correlation can continue in the abdomen, especially with the strong correlation that traditional Chinese medicine and the Japanese art of shiatsu has so strongly connected the physical pain and patterns in our limbs to the organ systems.
Right. Yeah. All the fascia that gets bound up, all the ligaments that are connected from like our lower abdomen all the way up to our neck and our face. I mean, yeah.
Oh my goodness. I need to go receive a session from you. I need to have someone work on my abdomen. I've always been that kid that did not like having my abdomen touched and still don't. It's just so vulnerable and we have so much emotion there. And I think, for anyone who resonates with that, what my inner voice is telling me now is like, you just need to be held there. Like, you need someone to show you that it is actually safe.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, I love this. I love this so much. So,
Yeah.
in your experience, you've been an educator now for a while, you've been changing lives of your clients and your students. What do you hope for the massage profession as a whole? You mentioned you wanted to see an abdominal practitioner on every corner, but
Yes.
what do you hope to see in regard to future generations of massage therapists experiencing in their continuing education journey?
I would love if it was easy to take the abdominal therapy training and that it's not scary. Like
Mm,
teach that in school that it's not a scary area. I would love to see more new massage therapists go deeper and not. I mean, I think there's a time and a place for sports massage and just the physical stuff. Well, I don't think that we're ever just physical.
yeah.
But I think it's great for somebody that just wants to do the sports massage because sometimes that's all, or just a nice relaxation massage because that's sometimes what people need. But to know that the scary stuff really isn't scary. It's just part of being human.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Yeah, it seems like more confidence in general, confidence and competence, and
Hmm.
being able to just approach the human body. I was speaking with a woman who works with more prenatal and postpartum, and we were talking about how like we're not fragile. There's such a culture of um, worrying that working on a pregnant person is going to break them. And I think that we have a similar mindset around the abdomen because it is a vulnerable area. And, that fear, it's that predisposed belief system that we have about fragility. And it makes us nervous to try new things.
Yeah, I actually do pretty deep work on the abdomen during pregnancy. And in my last training, there was a midwife from Mexico that took my training, and she's a 35-year midwife. And her response was, I never would have touched anybody's belly like that. And it has changed her practice.
Wow. Yeah, I remember when I got pregnant, and I specialized in working with prenatal clients, prenatal and postpartum for a while. It was like I loved it. And when I got pregnant, I actually started training to be a midwife with my midwife prior to becoming pregnant. And through my own pregnancy, realized I do not want to do this. But I remember when she was massaging the ligaments and she was working on my abdomen, I'm like, Wow, I did not know that it was okay to work on a pregnant belly that hard and that focused.
Mhm.
And she gave me so much confidence to be able to affect my pregnant clients so much more profoundly because that even just a little work on that round ligament, oh my goodness gracious, can make such a big difference for comfort.
Huge, huge, and turning babies.
Oh, see, I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Oh, no, you just do the work and they either turn or they don't.
Well, you're
But
creating
you
space, right?
creating space and giving them the opportunity when you're releasing tension in the belly, tension that doesn't need to be there, they can turn. I just had three babies, three pregnant people come in 3 days in a row and all three babies turned.
Wow. Yeah, that makes me think, my mom always joked my sister went breech, I think just a couple of days before she was born. And we have this running joke that she showed how stubborn she is even before she was born. And it rings true. It's kind of funny, but it makes me wonder, we think that, okay, there's that joke that she was just stubborn and went breech just to spite my mom, but the constriction, the tissue restriction, and what's actually going on in there, that makes a lot of sense. Like, obviously babies aren't consciously thinking I just want to be stubborn, but what
Mhm.
is actually happening in the tissue and keeping them from getting to that position, which is natural, which gravity is trying to pull them down toward.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, sometimes it's very simple. I did have one client whose baby was breech, and she was coming in every week because the baby wouldn't turn. And her baby would go transverse and then back to breech. And I am the last one that says you're going to have a C-section, but I
Yeah,
say I have a feeling that you need a C-section, and she did. And that little cord was wrapped around his neck so many times
because he was going back and forth.
because he'd go transverse, he wanted to turn, but then he'd flip back to breech. And so
Wow.
he'd go sideways. He would get as far as sideways. And then, so these little babies are way more intelligent than we are.
Hmm.
And so when I teach this work, I'm like, we are not turning babies. We're making space and they're turning if they can.
Yeah. Yeah, they have that source intelligence so
They're,
much more than we do.
we don't have that. They do,
Well, we do. I think we're just a
but we
little
do.
tapped into the programming here.
Right, right. And then, of course, my ego wants all the babies to turn,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
but that may not be how they're meant to be born.
Absolutely. Yeah, we all are, meant to have certain experiences and it will be what it will be. But
Absolutely.
part of that could be that the mom is meant to find an amazing abdominal practitioner to create that space. And I think you're right. There aren't enough practitioners out there that are educated in this and confident in knowing that this is possible. And I mean, it's not just about turning babies, it's not just about increasing fertility, it's about so many more things and helping people. I think there's potential too for allowing people to feel comfortable and more in tune with their own bodies by having that reception of touch. Like, I mean, my own experience, like I said, I'm like, I don't feel safe with having someone touch that. And then hearing my own inner voice of being like, you need someone to show you that it's safe. I
Mhm.
think that just being able to come back into this sense of safety in our own body and our own core and our own system and this entire system that's keeping us alive is what you as an abdominal practitioner and your students are able to provide for people. And that's really beautiful.
And yes, absolutely. And you can only take people as far as you've gone yourself.
Yeah.
And so to have this recognition, to have this, to say what you're saying, and to bring people further in their healing with the work that you do is really powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's my favorite thing about being a body worker because it does really force us to get more and more in tune with our own bodies, and our clients shine light on us, on the things that we want to work on sometimes, either by way of inspiring us or triggering us, just like, any person in our life does. But it's such a journey to experience all of these amazing things that our bodies are capable of or limited by, and allow us to be able to transform for ourselves, but then be able to share that with our clients. It's amazing.
It
Oh,
really is. It really, really is. And I just can't say enough of about how grateful I am that this is the work I do and that I get to teach people and pass this along.
yeah. Yeah. Teaching it, I think, is the best. And this is part of the reason why I want to see more and more practitioners step into a teaching role, even if it's just like the tiniest little technique. Like put a YouTube video up and share your favorite technique. We do this thing in the graduates retreat where it's like, what's your technique? Like, what's a technique? And we do a round robin and share
Oh,
like what's the thing you want to do. And it's a partly like a way of getting to know each other, but also a way of allowing everyone to like experience that you do have something of value to share. And a lot of the people who have come to the retreat are educators already, but the people who aren't, or they're new and like they get to step into that, it's really, really cool to allow everyone to experience that, because my favorite thing about being an educator is knowing that I'm vicariously working on everyone else's clients. And I get to like make that wave go even farther than my two hands can.
I love that. I absolutely love that. It's so true.
Yeah. Well, Michelle, I want to know where we can send everyone to learn more about your class and you and all your offerings coming up. So, where should we send people? Where would you like people to go to find out more about what you do?
My website is embodiedtraditions.com. And then I'm also I'm trying to learn Facebook. So if there's a link to my Facebook page, my Embodied Traditions Facebook page also. And
Perfect.
then my practice is moonshadowhealingarts.com. And so there's more information, but my goal is to transfer a lot of that information over to the Embodied Traditions website at some point. It's a work
Perfect.
in progress. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, as it is, the massage therapist thing, especially when we step into the educator role and we're turning an online, like creating an online business and all of that, all of a sudden we have to become a marketer as well. And always a work in progress.
I'm signed up for your classes. I'm
Yes.
super excited. So I know you're going to teach me a lot.
Yes. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And honestly, like being able to support you in creating more, because I know that your work is so important to learn in person, but being able to create more opportunities for people to toe dip or learn a little bit more, just, through an online source and help you maximize what you're teaching in person as well. It's just going to make such an amazing ripple effect in the world. So thank you so much for sharing about what you do and having this conversation with me today. I know that everyone's going to get a lot out of this.
Oh, thank you so much, Gretchen.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to The Sustainable Body Worker. If something resonated for you today, grab your free breakthrough session, which includes a custom hypnotherapy track to help you unlock the next level. Grab it now with the link in the show notes. And to hear more, hit subscribe. We'll see you next time.